Once I held the belief that intelligence was the supreme asset, a key to unlimited possessions and freedom from repercussions. My lifestyle mirrored this conviction. At age 43, I earned $400,000 yearly as a senior portfolio manager at a renowned city investment firm. My possessions included cars worth more than most homes, luxury watches that could finance someone's education, and an estate that left colleagues speechless upon visiting. On paper, my life was ideal. The career, the house, the marriage, 14 years with Alara. She had a timeless beauty, the sort of woman who looked graceful at charity events and effortlessly navigated five-star restaurant etiquette. When we tied the knot, I believed I had struck gold. She was intelligent, refined, and hailed from an affluent background. Her family's influence granted access to opportunities that my drive alone could not have provided, but eventually the flame dwindled. Or so I convinced myself. The reality was I grew tired. Alara became routine. Her book clubs, charity work, and gardening filled her days. She'd bid me farewell in the morning, inquire about my day at dinner time, and our life together was harmonious yet uneventful. I felt stifled by my own accomplishments. Then I encountered Kaylee. Kaylee Reed was 26 years old. She worked for a boutique marketing firm that my company hired for a rebranding initiative. She was the antithesis of Alara, spontaneous, exhilarating, unpredictable. She found humor in my jokes, as if I were the most amusing person on earth. She regarded me as if I were a prize she had obtained. With hindsight, that sounds rather pitiful. Here was an older man feeling unique due to a young woman giving him attention. Yet during that period, I persuaded myself that what I shared with Kaylee was genuine. I believed she comprehended me in ways my spouse never could. For 2 years, I led a duplicitous existence. I fabricated excuses about late meetings and business travels to Alara. I stashed money into a separate account for hotel expenses, lavish dinners, and Kaylee's jewelry. I grew adept at concealing my actions. Each lie became progressively simpler. I fancied myself as being exceptionally cunning. However, let me elaborate on the nature of deceit. Eventually, one comes to resent the person one is deceiving. I began to view Alara not as my wife, but as an impediment, a weight, a woman who hindered me from living the life I desired. Consequently, I made a resolution. I would terminate my marriage, but not in the conventional manner. No, I decided to do it on my terms. My objective was to ensure that after the turmoil subsided, I would retain everything while she walked away empty-handed, and the initial move in my scheme involved making her file for divorce. If she initiated it during an emotional outburst, I could portray her as irrational and unreasonable, a woman governed by emotions rather than logic. Consequently, I planted subtle hints, a hotel receipt tucked inside a jacket pocket, a notification that popped up on my phone when I knew she was looking, a call taken in another room with the door slightly ajar. I wasn't reckless, I was tactical. I wanted her to discover evidence that fueled her suspicions, but not enough to corroborate anything solid. I desired her to feel anxious and unsettled, and it proved effective. The night everything shifted began like any ordinary evening. I arrived home late, claiming a dinner with clients. Alara was in the living room waiting for me. As soon as I beheld her expression, I realized she had discovered something. She was clutching a receipt from the Monarch Hotel, revealing a delightful 2-night reservation, room service charges that included champagne and strawberries, causing her hands to tremble slightly as she showed it to me. "Who's this person?" Alara asked in a soft, composed tone, but I could see a gathering tempest in her eyes. I attempted to feign ignorance. "What are you referring to?" She rose from her seat. "Don't try to deceive me, Silas. I've suspected for months. I've noticed your guarded phone usage, the mysterious charges, the business trips that don't align with your schedule. Who is she?" After a moment of quiet tension, I let out a sigh, feigning surrender. "I believe we should discuss some matters." As expected, Alara broke down. She shrieked, wept, and hurled objects. For 14 years, she had embodied poise, but in a single night, I witnessed her collapse. Calmly and rationally, I conveyed remorse without directly acknowledging anything. I recommended counseling, playing the part of a husband determined to salvage the marriage, even as I secretly rejoiced within, for Alara was behaving exactly as I desired. She was becoming the unstable wife, the emotional wreck, the woman no judge would rely on to make reasonable decisions about asset distribution. However, she said something that altered everything. "I want the house." She said it amidst her tears, her voice cracked and frail. "If you've done what I suspect, if you've been with another woman, then this is what you owe me. The title deed for this house needs to be changed in my name. It's my gesture of reconciliation. It's how I show remorse. The house is valued at $4.5 million. It's the pinnacle of my accomplishments, yet here you are attempting to coerce me into giving it away. I fought back laughter, instead opting for an expression that conveyed pain. Alara, I said softly, I require time to mull this over. Consider it as much as you wish. She dabbed her eyes. But if you wish to salvage our marriage, if you want me to know I mean more than her, then you'll do this. You'll transfer the house into my name. I nodded slowly, pretending to ponder your request. Allow me time, let me consult a lawyer to ensure we proceed correctly. Can you grant me that? She acquiesced, and I left that room with a clear plan in mind. The following day, I embarked on a quest for suitable legal assistance. Specifically, I required an expert in asset protection, someone who could facilitate moving the house into a shielded arrangement, keeping it out of Alara's grasp. I knew that during divorce preparations, everything mattered, and that was when I encountered Arlo Thorne. His office resided in one of those ancient brick structures, exuding an air of wealthy tradition and confidentiality. Upon entering, I was struck by the impeccably preserved antique furniture, the law school diplomas lining the walls from prestigious institutions, and Arlo's appearance refined, intelligent, and subtly cunning in his eyes. Mr. Vance, he greeted me, offering a firm handshake. Please take a seat, share your reason for visiting. I disclosed most of it to him, detailing Alara's house demand and my divorce contemplations. I omitted mentioning the affair not due to fear of judgment, but because it had no bearing on my current situation. Arlo gave me his full attention. To confirm, I understand your predicament, he said upon conclusion. Your wife has asked you to transfer the house into her name. However, your intent is to safeguard the asset from division in a possible divorce settlement while simultaneously giving her nothing. Correct. I leaned towards him, emphasizing my desire for nothing. I want her to believe she's receiving it until it's too late. Arlo offered a knowing, conspiratorial smile. I believe I have the perfect solution for you, Mr. Vance. Have you heard of an irrevocable trust? Over the subsequent hour, Arlo outlined the strategy. I would establish a trust named the V Family Irrevocable Trust, transferring the property deed to it. This move on paper would indicate my removal from ownership, satisfying Alara's request while protecting the asset. However, it's crucial to note that Alara wouldn't have a right to the trust's assets. She wouldn't be entitled to it legally. Arlo explained the advantage of such an arrangement. Once you transfer property into an irrevocable trust, it ceases to be a marital asset, making it inaccessible during any divorce settlement. In other words, your wife can't claim something that is no longer yours. I was nearly bursting with anticipation. Moreover, she likely won't discern this strategy until it's too late. The trust documents are intentionally convoluted. Unless she employs a forensic accountant and a team of lawyers to meticulously examine each line, she'll be baffled by the contents. By the time she comprehends it, the asset transfer will already be completed. I felt like a skilled chess player, predicting checkmate 3 moves in advance. There's only one thing I require from you, Arlo stated. I need your signature on these documents, given voluntarily and with complete understanding of the actions involved. No pressure, no manipulation. Following his instructions, I signed all the documents he presented. Upon completion, I inquired if I could film myself signing the concluding deed transfer. Arlo raised an eyebrow and asked why. I replied, intending to show my wife how shrewd I was. I desired her to witness the instant she forfeited everything, while I grinned as I did so. Unmoved, Arlo allowed it. I captured myself transferring the deed to the V family's irrevocable trust on video. In the clip, I displayed the document, smiled at the camera, and declared, "Completed. The house is mine. Or rather, it belongs to no one. Good luck, Alara." Over the next few weeks, I replayed this video numerous times, finding each viewing more fulfilling than the last. Now it was time for the grand finale. I booked a table at the city's most elite restaurant, informing Alara it was a commemoration of our reconciliation. I explained to her that I'd given much thought and wanted to demonstrate my resolve in rectifying the situation. There was an air of optimism about her when she got ready that night. She wore the emerald necklace I gifted for our 10th anniversary and spent an hour on her hairstyle and makeup. For the first time in months, she looked at me as if I were the husband she once knew, not the unfamiliar figure she had been living with. A hint of remorse stirred within me, but I suppressed it. This was essential. This was retribution. Alara had attempted to seize what was mine, and now she would discover the consequences of underestimating me. We ordered wine, engaged in casual conversation, and I praised her dress. When our main course arrived, I reached into my jacket and produced an envelope. "What's this?" Alara questioned. "Open it." She did. Inside was a divorce settlement agreement. I observed the transformation in her expression as she comprehended its contents. "Sellers, what is this?" precisely as it appears," I stated, reclining in my seat. "I'm initiating a divorce. I've been plotting this for months, and to forestall any speculation about the house, let me save you time." I offered a smile. This was the moment I'd been anticipating. "As per your instructions, Allura, I transferred ownership of the property, but it wasn't handed over to you. Instead, I placed it in a trust." Her expression darkened with confusion. "I'd signed it over to an irrevocable trust, one that denies you any claim, rights, or access. So feel free to engage whatever attorney you desire. Protract this legal battle as much as needed. In the end, you receive nothing. The house is lost, Allura. It's untouchable." I anticipated tears, screaming, a dramatic display reminiscent of our living room that fateful night. Yet Allura placed the divorce papers on the table. She gazed at me for a prolonged moment. Then she began to laugh, not a manic laugh, not an anxious one. A hearty, amused chuckle like one who has just discovered the climax of an excellent joke. "Ah, Sellers," she said, sighing. "Apparently there's much you don't know." "Don't know what?" She grabbed her phone and typed something. Shortly after, she displayed the screen towards me. The image was of myself and Kaylee captured through a restaurant window, holding hands across the table. "For the past 18 months, I've been aware of your affair," Allura stated. "I have a private investigator chronicling every detail. The hotels, the presents, the hidden bank account. I'm privy to all of it." My stomach sank. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Because I was waiting. She swiped to another picture. This one revealed me at Arlo Thorne's office, shaking hands. "I was holding out for you to do something so incredibly foolish that you'd give it all up without a struggle." "What are you discussing?" The restaurant door creaked open and a man entered. Striding towards our table with an even pace, he was someone I didn't immediately recognize, Arlo Thorne. Allura introduced him as her brother, the man I had confided in my most intricate plot. My blood drained from my face upon realization that this stranger was, in fact, a sibling from my mother's first marriage. He shared a different father and surname, yet through our 14-year acquaintance, you never inquired about my family history or past life before us. Arlo settled into a chair beside Allura, no longer smiling, scrutinizing me like an unimpressed scientist observing an undesirable experiment. "Mr. Vance," he stated, "do you recall what you agreed to?" I hesitantly replied, "The V family irrevocable trust. The house was part of it." In response, Arlo slid a folder onto the table. "What you actually consented to was a charitable remainder trust with immediate liquidation provisions," he clarified. "Upon your signing of the deed, the trust became legally bound to promptly sell the property and dispatch the earnings to its predestined charitable entity, the Harrington Family Foundation." As I perused the documents, specific terms such as immediate liquidation, charitable distribution, and irrevocable transfer stood out. "You learned later that this foundation," Arlo explained, "supports women's shelters and programs aimed at preventing domestic violence, a fact which resonated with you upon realizing that it was indeed your grandmother's foundation. As a member of its board of directors for 12 years, this came as quite a surprise to you. Apparently there were aspects about me that you didn't bother to learn," Arlo commented, leaving you feeling slightly disoriented in the restaurant. "This can't be legal," you argued. "Yes, it is," Arlo replied, maintaining his poised and methodical tone. "The video you filmed of yourself voluntarily transferring property ownership without coercion, and with full comprehension of the conditions, could serve as compelling evidence if you were to deny this action in the future. However, it appears that you have been accused of intentionally transferring a matrimonial asset to avoid equitable distribution during divorce proceedings, a practice known as fraudulent conveyance, which is considered a criminal act. The fact that the asset was donated to charity rather than secretly kept doesn't alter your intent. Speech seemed elusive for you at that moment. So let me outline your options," Allura explained. "You have two choices. Option 1, you agree with the divorce terms I've drafted. By doing so, you will exit quietly, without claiming alimony from me or making any further demands on my assets. The remaining assets effectively vanish for you. In response to your second option, you intend to battle, seeking lawyers to recover the house, but upon success, I disclose all secrets, the affair, concealed funds, a video of you trying to hide marital assets. Even if you endure years in court and win, it's still a loss. Worse yet, you might face criminal charges for fraud. Looking at Arlo, I said, "You're my lawyer, there's attorney-client privilege." Arlo replied, his smile icy, "I was never your lawyer." "I ensured that, and if you check your documents, you won't find an engagement letter with my firm. I merely provided counsel as a consultant. No privilege, no protection." Sitting in that luxurious restaurant amidst prosperous couples savoring their nights, I felt my world crumble as Allura picked up the divorce papers I just served her moments prior. 1. My legal representative will deliver the amended agreements tomorrow. You have 3 days to sign them. She rose, placed the papers in her handbag, and looked at me once more. The hardest thing for me, Silas, is that I used to love you. When we got married, I believed we would construct a life together, that we would grow old together, but you were so preoccupied with finding something superior that you failed to appreciate what was right in front of you. She hesitated before departing. By the way, Silas, she added, regarding the capital gains tax on the sale of a property worth $4.5 million, it would be wise to consult an accountant about that. Since you transferred the asset prior to the sale, the tax responsibility falls entirely upon you. She exited, leaving Arlo behind without a word. I remained seated at the table for another hour, unable to respond or move, only rereading those documents repeatedly in search of something. The staff persistently asked if I required assistance, but I couldn't answer. In the ensuing weeks, everything that Allura had foreseen transpired without a shred of escape or loophole for me. I consulted 3 separate law firms to explore my possibilities, but they all concurred that I would lose if I chose to fight. The documents were flawless, my intentions were crystal clear, and the video, once my source of pride, essentially served as a confession on tape. My house was sold within 2 months, with the proceeds going to the Harrington Foundation. Subsequently, I received a tax bill amounting to $700,000. Before the ink dried on our divorce papers, Kaylee left me. It's ironic how swiftly "I love you" can transform into "I cannot see a future with someone in your predicament." Deprived of the house, money, and lifestyle I had promised her, I lost my appeal. My colleagues at work discovered about the affair, the failed scheme, everything. It's astounding how rapidly rumors travel within professional circles. I wasn't dismissed. Instead, a subtle forced exit occurred. With an early retirement offer, a substantial severance package, and the implicit agreement that my finance career was over, I relocated to a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It's modest with thin walls and a parking lot outlook. At night, I can hear my neighbors squabbling about finances, occasionally pondering Allura's words from that night, about how I was so engrossed in seeking something better that I overlooked what I already had. She was correct. I possessed a loving wife, a dream home, a life coveted by everyone around me, and yet I let it all slip away, thinking I was too shrewd to be discovered. The reality is, I wasn't clever at all. I was arrogant, self-centered. So enamored with my own cunningness, I never questioned if someone else might be even more astute. Recently, I read an article about the Harrington Foundation in the newspaper. The funds from my sold house were employed for constructing a new sanctuary for women fleeing abusive situations. Allura was pictured at the opening ceremony, her smile radiating years of joylessness. I extracted and stored that image in my wallet, not as a token of what I relinquished, but as an emblem of my true identity. I once believed myself to be the protagonist of my narrative, only to discover I was the antagonist all along. The severest retribution was not the loss of the house or fortune or career. The most painful realization was acknowledging that I inflicted this suffering upon myself. Each deception I spun, each plan I concocted, every harsh word I uttered, ultimately returned to haunt me. It appears pride precedes a downfall is not just an adage for self-consolation amidst failures. Now I understand its truth. Believing I had signed the house over to a trust, thinking myself safeguarded and invulnerable, I was tragically mistaken about everything.